This is the Marketing Umbrella Podcast, where it's all about getting the information you need from successful leading marketers to build and grow your digital marketing agency. Brought to you by Itamar Shafir, founder and CEO of Umbrella, the technology platform and brand that is powering thousands of marketing agencies around the country. Find him at umbrellaus.com. And now, here's your host, Itamar Shafir.
Welcome to the Marketing Umbrella Podcast, where we talk with successful marketing experts about ways to build and grow your digital marketing agency. Our guest today is a spy, has led the charge in transforming the way marketers craft their strategies based on competitive analysis. He's a successful serial entrepreneur and the CEO and founder of SpyFu.com. I'm excited to say hello to Mr. Mike Roberts. Hi, Mike.
Hey, thanks for having me. Great to be here.
So, like I told you before the podcast, I'm a big fan and a user of SpyFu, awesome. Which we're going to talk about. But before we jump into that, and I'm sure all the abundance of information and knowledge that you have on search marketing that you can share with the listeners, maybe we can start first by you telling them about your road as an entrepreneur and how you got to where you are.
Oh, sure. So before I started SpyFu, I had another software company. Before I had another software company, by the way, I tried to found a software company and then failed just because of various, lack of leadership or the reasons that people just randomly fail to do things. But I had another successful software company called VelocityScape. But what the product was. As a nerd, I called it web data extraction, which is really you just like take data off of the internet, off of a web page, like say like eBay or something, and you put it into a spreadsheet or database. And I called that web data extraction, but it turns out that the way that customers would search for this was called like web scraping or screen scraping or internet screen scraping. And to me, that was like almost an insult because my precious, beautiful product was doing data extraction, which is a technical term that only database nerds know. But the consumer had a different way of thinking about what they wanted. And I didn't learn that I launched the product after like working on it for like 16 months, like nights and weekends by myself. And I was like, I've just built this glorious thing. I've made this whole process ridiculously easy. Now I'm just going to instantly be rich. So I built it and then launched it and sort of did like the promotion that you would do back then. And I got like about, I think 3 sales in 3 months. And so I had to go back to work. And I continued, I had to go get a job again, So, but I kept working on the thing. And then like 6 months later, I learned I relaunched the product. And then sort of in that process, I started, I learned that people searched a different way. And when I did that next launch, I renamed the product and did like some SEO for this thing around those terms. And I instantly like tripled, or I'm sorry, I like more than tripled. I quadrupled my sales. I wound up making maybe $3,000 a month, which for me at that time, I was like, well, I can pay my mortgage with that. And basically it allowed me to that was the thing that kind of allowed me to like quit my job to some degree, or kind of mostly quit my job. And so the impetus for SpyFu was, whoa, I thought of these keywords, is there anything else that I'm missing? I have some competitors, maybe they have, maybe they've discovered something else that I hadn't. So I wound up building the original version of SpyFu just for myself. It was called GoogSpy, and I launched it in 2005 and did like a press release on it. And basically everybody liked it and kept coming back to it. But the real reason, the core of SpyFu was me having literally like $3,000 that I could possibly spend on like Google AdWords, and I had to get it right. And if I got it wrong, I literally had to go get a job again, And so I did get it right, fortunately, and that allowed me to also launch SpyFu eventually.
So, wow, that's quite a story.
It's a story.
No, but it's a great story because as an entrepreneur, you struggle so much and you get hit by so many hardships, whether it's financial, like you mentioned, whether it's just not getting it right. You thought it's going to be, a big bang, and then you make 3 sales. So
yeah, the journey is fun.
Yeah,
especially looking back on it. When you succeed because you tried really hard, and you failed many times, and then you overcame them, it's really gratifying. The entrepreneurial journey is not overrated.
Okay, so for the people that are listening to us that maybe know exactly what SpyFu does, can you encapsulate in a few minutes what it does?
Yeah, sure. So you can go to SpyFu and type in any website and see every keyword that they buy on Google. You can see all the organic keywords that they rank on, and you can also see like the history of all of their ad buying campaign and their SEO campaigns going back basically 15 years. And that those 15 years isn't particularly, like, going back 15 years isn't super important now, but going back a few years to see where like somebody's ad campaign began is pretty important. Because people in advertising tend to make their mistakes early in their campaigns. And so if you're looking at just a snapshot today, what you're looking at is an optimized campaign. And so you don't get to learn from the mistakes that they made. And it's important to learn from those mistakes so that you don't make them yourself, because they can be pretty costly. And the other thing about history that's valuable is, being able to say, well, I started like doing my content writing and my blogging, or, doing some stuff with like SEO, like in February. I want to see how my campaign has changed between then and now. And of course you can look at, your Search Console, or you can look at analytics, but the keywords and sort of like the actual, which pieces of content are driving this growth, or driving your, on the opposite of growth. You lose some traffic, auditing that is important. So the historical angle can be pretty valuable. Obviously
all that data, it's like a ton of data, and you're basically you're spying on competitors, right? The name pretty much says it all.
Yep.
How do you do that? Like, don't get into all the technical.
Very simple. It's very simple. And back when I did it originally, I was like, I'm going to make a reverse phone book, as how I describe it. I'm going to make a reverse phone book, for Google, right? So the idea is if you have like nobody has a phone book. I'm not going to use this example anymore. It makes me seem old, but anyway, so here's how it works: is we just do millions, hundreds of millions of searches against Google every month. Sorry, my phone. Hundreds of millions of searches against Google every month, and we collect everything that's on the page. So if there's an advertiser on the page, we collect that domain and like the ad, and if there's somebody ranking organically, we connect their position and their title, the title and the domain. But let's say we're just collecting just the keyword and the domain, right? Like pretend that those are the only things that we're collecting. Well, we do a search on a keyword, and then we put it all into a database, and then we just do a reverse search. So then, because we've done all those searches, and now we can just say, well, which keywords does redbull.com rank on, or what do they advertise on? So it's very simple in principle, but of course we're mongering just like absurd amounts of data, and everything that you see on SpyFu is ultimately auditable back to one of those screenshots of a SERP, a search engine result page, right? So the page off of Google, we actually keep those pages. It's 15 years of those pages as well, right? So everything is kind of got this like legal grade audit trail, if you will, which is kind of cool.
It is probably
we're never going to tell you something that we can't back up.
It's like a warehouse of racks. It's a ton of data. Yep. It's very impressive. So let's take it back to agencies. Okay, so I'm a small agency. I have a new client. Let's say a divorce attorney. Okay. I never promoted a divorce attorney before, but I landed this one. Take me through the steps of how I use SpyFu to crush this campaign without having done this before, specifically that niche or that product.
So if you're starting a brand new campaign, the best place to look is, so what you can do on SpyFu is you can figure out who the most effective advertisers are in that niche. And probably the easiest way to do that, if you don't have, you may already have an idea, right? Maybe you have an idea. If you have an idea, then you go and you check out their campaign and you look and see which keywords they're buying. You can look at like all of their advertising history, every ad that they've run, and you can see every split test that they ran on, and you can effectively determine who the winner is by looking at like which one they kept, right? So they may be the first ad that they ran, they may have been running 2, and it kind of like, you know, each month it goes back and forth, and then eventually they keep one, and then you can see their next test, and kind of so on. Sometimes for some domains we'll have, you know, 50 tests for one website on a single keyword, so you can see the results of all that, and kind of understand, well, what ad copy is going to work. Ad copy is one of those things that people don't think about a lot, because everybody thinks that the ad copy that they come up with off the top of their head is probably the best ad copy ever written. But in Google Ads, quality score is directly is directly related to what you're going to pay, and directly related to the efficiency of your campaign. And quality score, 90% of quality score is click-through rate. Keep in mind, I mean, I'm going to sort of go mildly deep here. Hopefully it's not weird. But everything that Google does, everything that Google optimizes for is optimized for effective CPM, which is, you know, the amount of money that Google makes per 1,000 impressions of a SERP, right? They optimize for that. And so they have this thing that's a quality score, but ultimately the quality score is it's your click-through rate. It's how much money they're going to make from you, right? So, and the only thing that can really impact the click-through rate is the ad copy. And so the ad copy is paramount to optimizing your campaign, but also increasing your quality score and driving the efficiency of your campaign. So we sort of look for these things in the history of the ads that they're running. But I mean, the first place to start is really figuring out the keywords that you want, and the ad history part is kind of like mildly advanced, I guess.
So I go in, I type in the URLs of my competitors. I can see which keywords they bid on, which keywords they stayed with, and I can also see the copy that won. And basically now I can emulate the best ad for a divorce attorney.
Yes.
That's perfect.
But there's actually even one better shortcut on SpyFu. Well, there might be, I might be leaving some out. SpyFu's been around for quite some time. We've got a lot of tools, but one tool that's pretty amazing is that we have for something like 500 different industry niches. You know, like, so divorce lawyer might be one of them. Probably is one of them. We have very many different subspecialties of lawyer, where we have pre-built campaigns that we've literally just paid. We paid people, consultants, to just build a campaign for a random niche, and then we just let our customers download those. You know, so you can just we pre-built an entire campaign by, you know, an expert, and then you can just download it and reuse it, and basically put your URLs in it, and it's pre-built for you. The ad copy is written and so on. So
it's probably ad copy and campaign already based on your data, right? So
for sure.
That niche. Okay, sweet.
Yeah, there's like 500 of those, so you can just you get a new customer, and you know, we start with the biggest niches, you know, like locksmiths or whatever. There's just a whole ridiculous number of them. I mean, we're adding like a new one every couple days.
That's right. So you can't really, right? We can't all use the same ad copy, or can we? Is it kind of like SEO where it creates?
It's like a template,
you need to tweak it, right?
You probably should, yeah.
Yeah.
But oftentimes you're running those sort of campaigns locally, and it's not, you know, you need to tweak it a little bit, but not necessarily a lot.
All right. So for me, not knowing how to get into an industry, how to start a campaign in a specific industry, this is a perfect tool for AdWords. And the same thing goes for SEO, right? It's exactly the same process, just for organic.
And you're looking at, in that case, you're probably going to be researching your competitors' top, like maybe the first place to start. You can look at keywords, but I think that maybe you want to look at the content. And so there's a tool on SpyFu called Top Pages, and it'll identify their top pieces of content, and you can see which keywords they're ranking on. And you could like basically search their content based on the keywords that you want to rank on. There's a variety of ways, a few different approaches, but basically, yeah, like you start with the the knowledge that your competitors have built up, that ideally you could just go ask them, right? Hey, let me go get my competitor drunk in a bar and see if they can tell me all of the things that they've ever learned about marketing in this niche. Yeah, sometimes that works out. But this is actually even more reliable because it's like it's like the truth. It's like, right, like you actually have their entire ad campaign history or their organic campaign, or you basically are like looking at their Google Analytics, but even more effectively because you can see all the keywords. It's like you're looking at their Google Search Console. It's better. It's near perfect. It's certainly better than asking them what their best advice is, actually, right?
Yeah, because you're getting the truth, like you said.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I know you also have a lead function, and I want to talk about that a little bit for agencies. Can you expand on the leads?
Yeah, sure. So so the way that leads works is we do a backlinks crawl of the internet every month. Or it's just like sort of constantly running. And as we go through every website, we collect all the contact information that we see. So if we see social media, profiles, et cetera, email addresses as we're going through the open web, we collect those and we store them about every website. And depending on where we saw them, we basically figure out whether or not we think it's their like actual. Is it somebody posting on the site, or is it actually somebody from that site? And so then we use that data for a variety of different things. So one thing you can do on SpyFu is do backlink outreach. So we have like a kind of we have a backlink tool that you can like sort of start by keyword. So you want to rank on a certain keyword, and then but then we'll find the people for you to do outreach for that on that. But the other way that we leverage that same data, that contact data, is we say, well, what if you want to contact people that spent domains in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, that spend more than $1,000 on Google AdWords or something like that, right? And so then you can produce a list of people with emails or phone numbers or whatever you want based on that. So we sort of cross-reference the data that we calculate based on watching people's ad spend and such with the data that we collect while doing a backlinks thing.
Oh, I love that for agencies, because that's exactly the crowd agencies are looking for, right? People spending money in advertising in specific niches that they work on, like divorce attorneys. So I think that's a like,
you can get even more granular. We have so you can look and see like, well, what do they have like HubSpot on their server? Do they have HubSpot but have no SEO growth or something like that, right? Like they look like they need help, there's a variety of ways that you can kind of slice and dice the data to, identify a particular set of users or a particular set of websites even. It depends on how you want to do it.
It's very
You don't necessarily have to get the users from us. You could potentially just get the list of websites and then
other
leverage
other
sources. I can't think. Oh, Full Contact would be a good one. I think you could use Full Contact. I think we might do that for you, but I'm not 100% sure whether we do that still or not. I'm not sure. We should do it. Sometimes I think think in terms of the things that we should do, and
write it down. What's coming up? Like, there are a ton of cool features. We covered just a few of them, guys. If you check SpyFu.com, you'll see a ton more. Anything on the horizon, like nifty features?
This podcast is brought to you by Umbrella. Have an agency? Check out umbrellaus.com to grow it today.
Our very next release is a release that I've kind of wanted to do for like 7 years. And we just really couldn't figure out how to architect it because it's a massive amount of data. So we have like, we have all of the history of everybody's rankings. Basically, like if you think of it like this, we're sort of like the, the Wayback Machine for Google rankings for everything, for Google basically, right? So in that sense, and this sort of process of being able to compare your rankings. Like I want to say I hired an agency, or I'm an agency, and and we got hired in in last year, right? And I basically want to track all of my progress, everything that I've done for a customer, and show them all the results. I want to show them all the keywords that we picked up, all the new keywords. These are all the new keywords that we rank on now that we didn't rank on when we started. That's kind of a motivating thing for customers. Or here's all of the ranks that increased, and I want to be able to show that to customers every month or whatever, or be able to do it from any point in time. And so we're releasing that, which is then like super searchable. So you can go back and see, like in terms of keyword clusters, these are if I look at a keyword cluster, here's how here's how our ranks changed on this group of keywords. I wish I could show you, but it's like this hierarchy of keywords that we break every website, we break their keywords down into like linguistic hierarchy, so it might be like, for us, our top level might be like AdWords, and then it'd be like the next level of that would be like AdWords tools or AdWords software, something like that, right? So you can see how you can kind of diagnose where you found gains or where you had losses potentially. Typically, you might want to show your customers the new and the gains, and not so much the losses. And that's something that you can do really nicely and easily through that tool. And you can do it from any point in any time, not just for your website, but for literally any website ever, from any time to any other time. So it's a way that so when you're checking out a new client, you can say, hey, look, you guys lost ranks, or you fell off of these keywords from this time to this time, or and these things all get lined up with any Google algorithm changes. So we sort of plot those in a chart next to it, so you can choose how you want to like look at that stuff. But from my perspective, it's kind of like a much simpler way of identifying the things that I want to find about my site than like anything else. Even Google Search Console is a really useful tool, but you can kind of like diagnose, find out why something changed much more quickly in this tool. And then we like take it to the final step, which is we link you to the Wayback Machine, where you can identify if there's a content change that caused it. And so there's like a direct link in there that lets you identify what's what. So it's a sweet new tool that is massively expensive, right? I'm paying probably 50 grand a month to just to host the servers, on Amazon. But hopefully it's like something people like. It's a huge upgrade. Like I gotta tell you, like the machines that I've been running with the existing what it's replacing is called ranking history on SpyFu. Those machines are just like random servers that I've had running for like 10 years or something, or 8 years, and so this is a huge upgrade in terms of what this thing is capable of doing. It's a pretty massive win.
Amazing.
I think. It's really expensive, but really premium. Yeah, you should check it out. It's pretty good.
Expensive for you, not for the users.
Oh yeah, no, it's all like it's all in the SpyFu like $39 a month kind of deal. Yeah,
so
I'm
when is
pretty
it coming out?
I want to say
I won't put you
I mean no, we're literally we'll probably wind up soft launching it next week. It's out. I mean, like there's a very polished version of it that we were looking at yesterday. I don't think that there's any bugs in it. We didn't, we do a thing before we launch anything where we have not just like QA, but like everybody in the company try to break it and try to identify bugs. And we haven't found any bugs. It's probably done, but I don't think that we'll wind up launching it until next month. Maybe it'll be tomorrow. I don't know. It's not a long amount of time. Yeah. I've been waiting for this one for at least a year though. This is a tough one. I'm pretty stoked about it.
Cool. It sounds good.
We've been doing a lot of stuff with SpyFu in the last during the pandemic. We basically were like, let's just reinvent the entire architecture so that we can be the idea is to be like 100 times bigger in terms of our data scale, so that we can have, so that there's like no doubt that we have the best data in the world.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of, like, ultimately I would like to be able to put in all of Google in a box, right? So that you can, because if we can do the entire like sort of index, the entire Google index, then we can sort of compute like for you what would happen if you make some changes to like your website.
Oh, that would be super cool.
Yeah, because we could run a full simulation that way, but we just need a little bit more scale, about 50x. And so we built it so we could do 100x. So we'll get there. We're right now we're running at about 20 times what we were running in 2020. So we're
impressive.
Yeah, it's cool.
Okay,
it's like a self-healing spaceship at this point. So it's a cool machine.
I can think of like 9 other things that would add to it. Like, for example, being able, once you have that ability to kind of play with the entire data set of Google and do predictive analysis, is I think what's missing for a lot of these tools is a simple voice UI. When I see small agencies and small businesses interact with tools, and SpyFu is pretty intuitive. You have much more sophisticated tools. You mentioned some Google consoles before, and even analytics. Try just start working with it in an effective way. And I think it's scary for a lot of people, but if they can say, look, if I do this and this, kind of talk to the computer, if I go after these and these keywords, like what's going to happen to this companion in a couple of days or in a couple of months? And you're saying the system will kind of show the graph, you're going to tank, or it's going to say it's going to be wonderful. But yeah, that's like another 5 years.
I'll tell you one lesson, one of like the most important lessons, or sort of like this graduating and increasing lesson that I've learned in sort of building data products I've built more than one. And actually, like the interesting thing is that the SpyFu, before there was SpyFu, there was no SEMrush or Ahrefs or any of the sort of keyword spy, right? So we kind of launched this industry. And so it's what I've learned over time is that when I launched, I thought, well, we should just provide people with data, and they're the smart ones, they'll make the decisions, right? But I learned that that really it's useful to have an opinion, like if the software has an opinion or gives you a specific action. So actually the evolution in my thinking has been provide people with the data and let them make the decisions. And then the other one was provide them with like some kind of an opinion, like, here's what I think about your marketing campaign or whatever. Here's what I think in kind of like almost words. But then, and now the thing is that I want to give people actions, right? So everything that we do, before we produce it, we do like an actionability assessment. Like, what is the action that we want the user to take to create value for themselves? Like, what, do we want them to change the title of their web page? That's the question. Do we want them to add this keyword to their campaign? Do we want to have them subtract this keyword, right? Like, is it a negative match opportunity for them? What is the goal of the product? What's the end action? And so when we build something or rebuild something, everything is built around the actionability of it, which is kind of similar to what you're talking about, right? Like, it's like, well, you don't really, nobody really wants to do. I mean, maybe you want to do research, but you want to have, like, most of the time. It would be better if you could just be like, just tell me what I need to do.
Yeah.
Like, what do I need to do in order to get, have a more fulfilled life and spend more time with my family and be richer or whatever? Like, what's, just shortcut this for me.
I think also, first off, I think you're 100% correct, and that's the right way to go. But I think also for a lot of small users, it's really also a matter of knowledge. They're not so knowledgeable. Like, they get it, they get PPC and SEO, but not to the core and not to the depth that you and your folks are getting it in SpyFu, and are really experts at it. So that's where I think actions are super. So this is like the very near future of SpyFu. Now let me take you. I know we don't have a lot of time, so just a few more questions. Let me take you 5-10 years into the future in search marketing. Do you see any major shifts, or you see kind of more of the same?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, so what you've got going on is that on the SEO side, Google tends to, so on the SERP in general, Google will try to monetize more and more of it, right? So one way they'll monetize it will be to increase the prominence of ads and possibly the disruption in the ads. So they'll probably have different ad formats. That's obvious. They've continually made the ads more bigger and a little bit more disruptive. And then the other thing is that they'll direct more traffic to their own properties. So you see, sort of like their flights and their hotel bookings and their maps and all this stuff. Probably they'll have like, so they'll direct more of their traffic, more of like, okay, fair enough. Let more of their traffic to their properties. It's sort of reasonable, but also like everyone's like, I hate your guts. It depends on how you think about it, right? Like, they want to control the user experience. They want to make the money. And so they want to keep people in their properties so that they can, measure and control everything. Right.
Right.
So what you see is like potentially some meaningful decrease in what's called no-click searches, where people do a search and then they don't click on anything because they get what they want answered. So obviously, you think of something like, what's the capital of France as a query? Well, you don't need to go to another website to do that, frankly. It's kind of okay, but it's like the further away you get from a fact, the more people are like, like the lyrics thing, whether or the lyrics to like, some song. How dare they not link out to like the lyrics websites with that just are basically lyrics with ads on them? I would be upset if somebody was like, well, which keywords does Groupon buy most often? And they're like, here they are. I'd be like, oh dang, that sucks. So I get it if you're if you have like a database, if you have lyrics and you just want to put ads up, and that's kind of like your thing. But that's kind of the area that Google's going to continue to go into more, and you can even see evidence of no-click searches. No search searches, where if you type in, what time is it in LA or something, I think that, or like weather, these things are going to start to show up in the actual suggest box. So that's a thing that's continuing to happen. Is that 5 years? I mean, it's now, so I'm not really predicting the future, but this is the direction that things are happening.
And you think Google is going to become more and more immersive include more and more content, are we going to see a major shift in the way the search page is structured? It's going to become more like a dashboard and less like a search page?
I don't think that that's going to happen. I don't think that, I think that the format is relatively, okay, you know, maybe there's a disruptive player that comes in and makes that happen. You know, like Google isn't necessarily cemented in its position. If somebody creates a better search experience, then they can gain market share, and you know. But no, I don't see Google changing significantly from the status quo. It's kind of like what's an iPhone going to look like 5 years from now? Probably like similar to what an iPhone looks now. But you know, if you were to say 10 years ago, what's an iPhone going to look like? You know, you might, but I think it's pretty well established.
Pretty much the same.
Yeah. I mean, you know, people talk to things, and that is a thing. You know, you ask Google on if I literally say Google out loud or something like, "Hey Google," it's just gonna start talking to me. Right? It's on my desk. I don't use it as much as I should, but my kids use it a lot, and so you know they're not adults at all, but they will be, and and so that could create change.
Yeah. Okay. So that's comforting. Knowing the experts think it's
don't rely on me to predict the future though, dude.
No, you're committed now. You're recorded, you're committed. So the last section of the podcast is a rapid Q&A. I'm going to ask you quick questions. Need quick answers. The questions are in no way edgy, but if you feel uncomfortable by any of them, just say pass. They're not really.
All right, cool.
Okay.
Short answers, right? Are you on short answers or quick? You know, like
short
and quick. Okay, we got it.
Did you get along with your parents growing up?
Almost all the time. There was just like one little part where my dad and I didn't get along.
Do you have siblings?
One sibling, sister.
Do you have a pet?
I have a dog, a cat, and a turtle, and I guess maybe there's some fish around here. Oh, my wife has a bunch of chickens.
You have kids,
mostly the dog is my dog. I have two kids, two boys. 9 is his birthday, and 11.
How old were you when your first kid was born?
I think maybe 32-ish. I'm gonna say 32.
When do you wake up?
When? Before this podcast. So like about 10:15.
When do you go to bed?
About 2:30.
Ideal vacation?
Ooh, now, dude, it's been pandemic time, so I got to take my kids a bunch of places before they get too old. So I don't know, anywhere that's, for me, the best vacation is something that is difficult-ish. Like it's got to be an adventure. Adventure is a good vacation.
Okay. Are you a man of faith?
I have faith in myself.
It's a kind of faith.
I feel like I'm spiritually connected to the world. You know, particularly when I'm like surfing.
You're not practicing, but you have faith in the higher power. That's what you're saying.
I have not really. I'm more like a straight up atheist in that sense. But but I feel connected to nature sometimes, and generally I feel like you know, one with people. Like, you know, I'm connected to the world.
Okay.
But not, you know.
I'll take it.
No, nothing significantly higher. I did thank the ocean for giving me good waves once, and then like some dolphins popped up, and I was like, and it brought a tear to my eye. So that was weird.
So I don't know. I'm gonna go with the no here.
Sorry, I was really trying to squeeze it in there.
So that's it. Thank you so much. That was excellent, Mike. Thank you for so much good data and information in helping our listeners to crush their next campaign with SpyFu and all your good advice. And guys, go check out SpyFu.com. That's SpyFu.com. I've been using it myself. Awesome tool, awesome people. And check it out. Thank you, Mike.
Awesome. Thank you. It was a great time.
Thank you for tuning into another episode of the Marketing Umbrella Podcast, where we provide the information you need from successful leading marketers to build and grow your digital marketing agency. Your host has been Itamar Shafir, founder and CEO of Umbrella, the technology platform and brand that is powering thousands of marketing agencies around the country. Find him at umbrellaus.com.